This is After the Fire, a series about history after the events. Each season follows the long relationship between two worlds. Before Iran and India existed as names, they already existed as worlds. Not worlds defined by borders, flags, or states, but worlds shaped by movement, ritual, and memory. Long before kings, chronicles, and empires tried to freeze reality into categories, the space that would later be divided into Iran and India functioned as a broad cultural continuum. To enter this world is not to look for a single origin. It is to step into a time when separation had not yet hardened into identity, and when distance did not automatically mean difference. If this speaks to you, stay with us, like, subscribe, and tell us what you think. Chapter 1. A world held together by movement. Several thousand years before the first Persian or Indian states emerged, communities speaking early Indo-Iranian languages occupied a vast zone stretching from Central Asia across the Iranian plateau and toward the northwestern edge of the Indian subcontinent. This is not a hypothesis built on myth alone. It is reconstructed through comparative linguistics, archaeology, and shared ritual vocabulary that survives in later texts. Words connected to kinship, moral order, sacred speech, and cosmic balance appear across both Iranian and Indo-Aryan traditions, pointing to a long period of shared assumptions. Fire stood at the center of ritual life, not as a symbol, but as a living presence. It was tended, preserved, and addressed. Spoken formulas were believed to act upon the world, not merely describe it. To speak correctly was to align oneself with the order of the cosmos. These societies lived with movement as a given. Seasonal mobility structured life. Pastoralism blended with early agriculture. Exchange networks extended across long distances, carrying materials, techniques, and ideas. Movement was not disruption, it was continuity. There were no borders to cross because there were no political edges to defend. Authority was local, situational, and temporary. Leadership rested in lineage, ritual competence, and the ability to maintain balance within a community. Power did not accumulate vertically, it circulated. Later, histories often describe this period using the language of migration or invasion, but those words belonged to a world that had already learned to fear movement. For the people living then, movement was simply how the world worked. This is the deep background from which both Iran and India would later emerge. Chapter 2. When shared foundations begin to separate. Over centuries, this shared world began to stretch and thin. By the middle of the second millennium BCE, communities moving south and east shaped traditions that would later be preserved in the Vedic corpus of northern India. Hymns that eventually formed the Rigveda were composed, transmitted orally, and refined over generations. They reflect a society organized around ritual specialists, warrior elites, and a cosmos maintained through sacrifice and correct speech. At the same time, communities remaining on the Iranian plateau developed religious ideas that would much later be articulated in Zoroastrian scripture. Although the surviving Avesta was written down centuries afterward, its conceptual core preserves much older traditions. The similarities are unmistakable. Both worlds imagined a universe governed by order rather than chaos. Both treated speech as an active force. Both assumed that humans bore responsibility for maintaining cosmic balance. And yet, differences grew. In the Iranian world, moral dualism became increasingly pronounced. The universe was understood as a struggle between truth and deception, between order and the lie. Ethical choice moved to the center of religious life. In the Indian world, cosmology expanded in another direction. Time became cyclical rather than linear. Reality unfolded in layers. Social duty, ritual obligation, and the rhythm of rebirth structured how people understood their place in the world. What matters is how this divergence happened. There is no evidence of a defining conflict between these worlds at this stage. No great war, no mass displacement, no cultural rupture imposed by force. Separation occurred through distance, environment, and local adaptation rather than hostility. They drifted apart slowly, without becoming enemies. This is why later encounters between Iran and India carry a sense of recognition rather than shock. Beneath different expressions, something familiar remained. Chapter 3: When Power Demands Names. The decisive transformation came much later, with the rise of states, writing, and institutional power. In the Iranian world, the emergence of Median authority and later the Achaemenid Empire required classification. Lands had to be named, peoples had to be listed, obligations had to be recorded. Writing became an instrument of administration. In northern India, late Vedic society moved toward territorial polities. Social categories hardened, genealogies were written down. Belonging became something that could be fixed and contested. This is the moment when names begin to matter. Not because people suddenly changed, but because power demanded clarity. Texts froze what had once been flexible. Movement became something to regulate rather than assume. Identity became something that could be defended or denied. Yet the older world did not vanish. Its traces survived quietly in ritual language, mythic structures, and deep assumptions about order and legitimacy. These older layers explain why, when later Iranian and Indian empires encountered one another, they did not meet as strangers. They recognized patterns beneath the names. What we now call Iran and India emerged from a world that did not yet think in those terms. The fire of history, empire, text, and state hardened distinctions that had once been fluid. Borders appeared, loyalties solidified, identities became durable. But beneath them, something older endured. A memory of movement before enclosure. A sense of order older than institutions. A shared past from before separation. And that memory would continue to shape the relationship between Iran and India long after the names had taken hold. Stay with us, like, subscribe, and tell us what you think.